Okay, so we're live. We're just waiting for some viewers to hop on. This is Stand Up Fight Back, so we'll just give it a moment until we see somebody. And Carlos, how was your Christmas? Did you have a nice Christmas with your family?
It was good. Actually, I started with my birthday, which was on the 23rd.
Oh, that's right.
It was exciting, to see another year go by us real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And, that followed by, of course, Christmas. And it was great. I got to see my family just momentarily, not too much, because I have been working on the food bank, make sure that people had food. So that took a right.
Well, we have some people on now with us, so let's say hello to them. Hi, everyone. You're watching Stand Up Fight Back. I hope everybody had a very nice Hanukkah, very nice Christmas, and Kwanzaa if you're celebrating any of those holidays, and that you're staying safe and you're healthy and you're able to spend some time with your family, whether it's online or in person. So let's get started. It's Sunday morning. Wake up, wake up. That's what I'm telling myself because I'm kind of sleepy this morning. So just a reminder about who we are. I'm Margot Paez. I'm a scientist, an engineer, and an occasional journalist. And this is my amazing co-host. He is an absolutely wonderful grassroots organizer. His name is Carlos Marroquin. And you're watching our weekly Sunday morning program, Stand Up, Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. We simulcast on Facebook and YouTube, so please share with your friends and please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. So today, it's just going to be Carlos and I for the morning part of our show, but we're going to be doing another one at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to have a volunteer from If Not Now. His name is Elias Newman, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what they're doing in Georgia, and also about their struggle to end the occupation in Palestine. So Carlos, again, it's great to see you. You were just talking about a little bit about what you've been up to, making sure that everybody's being fed in the city. And how's your experience been with that in terms of the number of people who are showing up? Because I think that's really relevant to some of what we plan to talk about today. And for our viewers, we are just going to do a kind of a brief year in review. We're just going to go over everything that happened. And so much of what has happened has left people with an inability to put food on the table and have a roof over their heads. So Carlos, tell us a little bit about what you've seen with the food bank. Have you seen a big change in the number of people that are showing up, the type of people that have been showing up over the year?
Yes. First of all, good morning, everybody, wherever you may be watching us from. It's a pleasure to be here with Margot, again, to try to put sense into the things that are happening to us and to our communities right now. The food insecurity crisis is real. It's affecting a lot of people, primarily people that have been struggling prior to the pandemic. Bless you. I know I have this, I've been sneezing, pretty cold. As you can see, I'm wearing my jacket even inside the house here. But it's been cold and kind of crazy weather. But, and what I've been seeing over the months is not only more people coming looking for food, but the people have changed. And by that, I mean that I'm seeing people that you can tell that they had a job. They dress different. They talk a little bit different. They're a little bit more, I would say, even in the professional side. So I've seen people like that coming to our food lines, but it's pretty much holding steady when it comes down to those people living in poverty. They were struggling before, they're struggling now. So we see a lot of the people that been with us for months. Sometimes I notice that there are some people that are not there, and that worries me because We are right now here in Los Angeles. Um, this is the epicenter right now of the COVID-19. So yes, I'm seeing a lot of need out there. I speak with different people that are having community banks throughout Southern California. We talk, we communicate, we see what the needs are, and pretty much wherever you go, there's a big need right now. So I don't expect this to get better before it gets worse. We expecting worse times ahead because there is the change of the presidency, and we also are seeing that the inaction by today's government is creating and growing the crises. Uh, that's happening because of the inaction of the government, and I might say even both political parties. I know that one is in control, but we need to be. We haven't seen a forceful Democratic Party pushing a big agenda. We haven't seen that.
Mhm. Right, exactly. We haven't, and I know last week we touched on a little bit on Biden's economic plan that he has for when he comes in the office. I think it's called Build Back Better. If you go through the plan, there's not a lot there for families, for the individual workers. There's these loans, there's this idea that he's going to put in like 15 million green energy jobs or clean energy jobs, but there's nothing in there that directly addresses the crisis that we have right now, which is, you know, people who are about to be foreclosed on or about to be evicted from their homes, who are unemployed. And I was reading an article this morning about the eviction crisis that is looming. There's 5 million people that are on the verge of falling into poverty because partly because the stimulus package hasn't been passed, Carlos, and these 5 million people, according to somebody who's an expert in the article, I don't recall their name, that when you fall into poverty, usually what happens is you lose your job and then you run out of unemployment, and then once you fall into poverty, you stay there. It becomes a vicious cycle. So we are pushing millions and millions of good Americans, honest people who are just trying to live their lives into desperation and a cycle of poverty that is going to be very difficult for them to escape unless there is some kind of assistance. So that's where we're ending the year. and it's a terrible thing to happen right now.
Right. It's humongous. We're going to see a tsunami of evictions. Here are some numbers. In the United at risk of falling into homelessness is between 30 to 40 million people. That's a lot of people. Right now, there is a moratorium in place that prevents the landlords from evicting you. In some cases, they still do. But, and this is why the numbers of people experiencing homelessness continue to grow through the pandemic, because there are some people that are not protected by moratoriums that they have in place or whatever assistance they may have. So there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people that have received any kind of help. And again, moratoriums may not apply to them because they might have been renting a room and now they can no longer afford to pay for the room. And these are people that may not be in the books. You know, they don't have a contract. They don't have a corporate landlord or someone that they pay the rent to somebody, maybe a friend or something. But all those people are pretty much adding to the numbers of those experiencing homelessness. So we know that to be a fact. So you will have between 30 to 40 million people at risk of becoming homeless, because if this moratorium, the renters moratorium, expires, that's exactly the next step. The landlords are going to move really quickly, and I mean really quickly, to try to evict people. Now, here in California, the good news is that there's a statewide moratorium that pretty much keeps people in their homes. They have to meet certain criteria. They have to pay 25%. You know, there's certain things that they still have to do, people. But that one will expire at the end of January. So, but nationally speaking, it's a major, major crisis, and the president is nowhere in sight. He's out there golfing. He's playing golf. You have a stimulus bill that, in my opinion, is a weak bill, but it still does something for some people, and they can even pass that. It's been 9 months, Margaret, since some Americans, I'm going to say some because not everybody got this, since some Americans got the $1,200 9 months ago. Now they're talking about $600. Then the president goes about $2,000. He don't really care. He's not a factor anymore in anything. He's a joke, that guy. You know, he needs to be held accountable for the over 300,000 people dead already to the coronavirus. That's his responsibility. That's under his watch. That's because of his failure to act accordingly to the crisis. So that we know. But again, what at the end of these moratoriums, when they expire, we're back to square one. Landlords want the money and they want to kick people out. And if people don't have jobs, how are they supposed to come up with the money? Who are they supposed to turn to? So here in California, the numbers of people at risk of eviction are in around 240,000 people. You know, and we're not counting people that have not been able to pay their mortgages, which is different from renters. Mm-hmm. So it's a major, major crisis ahead of us. And so far, we give everybody an F for what they've done. An F. That's what they get. Yes, California has been bold in going a little extra, you know what I mean? But we still have the problem because people can still not pay their rent. They need to do rent forgiveness. That's what needs to happen. And people need to have money in their pockets on a monthly basis, not every 9 months. You know?
Yeah.
So those are some of the quick things that need to happen. But I don't see that coming. Not from, certainly not from the Trump administration, whatever is left of it. And I'm going to be very, very cautious about the Biden administration because, you know, he needs to be winning hearts. And he's not going to do it if you playing around tip-top around the tulips. You know, he needs to come up bold. People want to see leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what they want to see. They want to see a strong agenda. They want to see, you know, a striking difference between Republicans and Democrats. And unfortunately to say, sometimes you cannot tell them apart, except for their names. You know, so that's what needs to happen. And yes, it worries me because I know, you know, I deal with a lot of people. And when I'm talking to the people in the food banks, in the lines at the food banks, I usually, you know, I engage a lot. I like talking to people, and I like to know what's bothering them, and I like to know what's going on in their lives, in their community. You know, what is it that keeps them from sleeping at night? I like to hear that. So when they start sharing their stories, Margaret, you know, your heart breaks because these are hardworking people. These are people that want to be out there working, but they just can't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, definitely more needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see. Biden needs to come in and have an unemployment works program, full employment, which I don't see happening because the way our system works is it benefits the employers to not have full employment because that's a threat to the worker. That's to say, like, well, you know, if you don't do what I say, if you don't take my crappy wages, then you can just end up on the street. But that's something that we should push the Biden administration for. is full employment. We also know that that stimulus check that came out in April actually really held people over for a little while. They were able to buy groceries or pay some of their rent or utility bills. So we know just from that one check that giving people money works, but we have to do it on a regular basis to lift people out of poverty. So we need to see the Biden administration also institute a kind of UBI, universal basic income for workers to get through this crisis. And it can't be, like we've said, it can't be $600 a month. That's not enough to pay your bills. It's barely enough to buy food for a month for a family. You know, it's not enough for utilities, not enough for rent. So it has to be substantial, like $2,000, which originally Bernie Sanders was the first person to call for that. And then Trump is a great idea. And I support that. And it seems that the Democrats were willing to support that too. So I think it would be great if we could get that. But in the meantime, people are, the unemployment has expired. So this is a very, very difficult time. Carlos, why don't we talk a little bit about the year overall now? We've moved into our show. We're about 16 minutes in, so we should talk about
through the year. It's a lot of stuff that happened through the year, Margaret. We started the year by going full force for Bernie Sanders, and his campaign was in full force. And that was happening on the ground. And unfortunately, just by that time, that's when he lost Super Tuesday. And just around all that time, we start seeing COVID-19. The talks about COVID-19 and reports from China, from Europe, how it was spreading. And we saw the total failure of the U.S. president to protect the nation. A total failure. I mean, insanity. He politicized the crisis. That was his biggest mistake. And it will be Biden's biggest mistake if he politicizes the crisis, if he continues to politicize it.
Yeah, Carlos, I remember during the early part, March, April, I guess maybe it was still March at the time, it was just around Super Tuesday, but this was when the Wisconsin primary happened. And I was so upset because actually I was volunteering for Bernie's campaign then, and I was a Bernie victory captain. So I would bring people in. I would host events, and we would do phone banking. And we were doing door knocking, and we did a caravan and stuff. But at that point, it was virtual phone banking because the campaign switched virtual. And I remember there was a lot of volunteers were upset about that because they didn't feel comfortable asking people to show up in person to vote because we didn't really know enough about the virus. We didn't have any PPE for people, and it seemed like like we would be responsible for anybody getting seriously ill or dying. So the volunteers really pushed back on that, and then Bernie basically said, "Look, we're not going to do get out the vote for Wisconsin," and we didn't. But Biden went on the news and said, "Oh, it's safe. It's totally safe to go in person to vote in Wisconsin. It's fine. Just go out there. You'll be fine. Social distance, whatever." And that was really, really upsetting. And now people look at Biden. He's like, "Oh, I want to do the first 100 days of everybody wear a mask." When he is also complicit in sending people out there just for votes, just like Trump was. And I don't think we should forget the actions that Biden made, the things that he chose to do in order to win this election. And we should not kid ourselves about this person. Because Biden is, for one thing, he's a liar too, like Trump. He ran for president twice before and had to drop out because he was a liar. Either he plagiarized a speech or he lied about his academic record. he's not an honest person. He acts like Uncle Joe, but he was like, what was he? He was like the credit card king, But this person never in his career cared about working class Americans. All he cared about was whoever was going to fund his campaign so he could stay in office. So we really should not think that Biden is going to save us either, or Kamala Harris, or the Democratic leadership. I think that's a really important lesson that we have to learn going through 2021, because
Margaret, I think that we need to say the fact that Kamala Harris, she couldn't even win California. She came out at the bottom of that. So you had a president-elect and a vice president-elect that should have never even been there. They got pushed by the establishment. And we saw shenanigans that happened in all the states. But one thing that I was very impressed early on the pandemic, how serious Bernie Sanders took this. And he was even willing to call off his campaign and start working to defeat this dangerous man, which is Donald Trump. Because he criticizing the thing, and he didn't care about the people. He didn't bother to go to those meetings, those briefings, and taking these things seriously. Meantime, you have Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, out there fighting, and immediately he called out for $2,000 a month for every person in America, not just it. Everyone should be getting paid. And I remember that. And Margaret, yes, absolutely. Biden is not to be trusted. He's got a track record of pushing bad policies. And just like Donald Trump, he deserves to have a chance. But just like Donald Trump, we knew what he was about even before he stepped into the arena. You cannot change a grown man and their ways. They're already set on this way. It's like asking, one of our political party leaders to change their ways. They're not going to do that. Mitch McConnell is never going to change. Pelosi is never going to change. No. Schumer, all those people are never going to change. That's what they stuck in for decades, and they are become, sanctify and start doing the right thing. It's not going to happen. So for us, we saw a transition going from the primaries. Some people chose to follow Bernie's advice and campaign for Biden, because them it was the lesser two evils of two evils. Of two evils.
Really.
But this is where we are now. What I also saw happening is that progressives began to take the pandemic very serious from the start of the thing. We are the ones that mobilize to open those food banks. We are the ones that mobilize to fight and protect and advocate for the homeless. We are the ones that we pushing that there. And we had the structure, the infrastructure to do that, because we have been really, really good in organizing via online and social media. So that was to our advantage and continues to be to our advantage. We have a big following because we have been organizing online. And everybody else was trying to catch up. Politicians were they didn't know how to respond to this thing. We're up and running with no money. There's a lot of things that the progressive movement has done right, and a lot of things that have happened. And mind you, we got to remember this, that Bernie politics pretty much control and dictated the conversations during the election.
Right.
It was policies, Medicare for all. It was we have never seen anything like that. So if for some of you that don't may think Bernie's a sellout, for, just think of that. He raised some of the issues to the highest level that never have been before. If you want to give Bernie anything, at least give him that. And he can, because even right now, you know what I mean? Those are the things that are driving the conversations. Even with the stimulus, he's out there fighting. Do you see your senator fighting like Bernie?
No.
And talk about a new senator in California. So we
have Alex Padilla.
Alex Padilla. We're going to give him a chance. But again, knowing his background, knowing what he stands for, knowing who his inner circles are, the whole establishment, can he all of a sudden see the light and become and start being a fighter and a leader for the progressive issues or causes? We'll see. But again, Mr. Alex Padilla was responsible for the 2016 failure of the primaries here in California, a massive failure where literally countless of people got switched over. They got the ballots crossover, their registrations erased, wiped out. Sometimes, you're being a Democrat all your life, and all of a sudden, you register as a Republican. I mean, the list is from here to there of all the problems that happened in 2016, including him actively campaigning for Hillary Clinton while he was the Secretary of State. Right? That's Mr. Alex Padilla. He was next in line to take over Dianne Feinstein if she decided one day that she was going to step down. He was next in line. I've been told that by some very, very credible sources, people that know him from childhood. And he was literally next in line. We knew that. So look, it doesn't really matter at this point. And I don't like to get stuck in things. I want to be able to give people an opportunity, but we'll see where this goes. In the meantime, we got to stay on top of things. We got to keep moving forward. We should not slow down. We should not be discouraged. We should be encouraged because a lot of good things are happening. Another thing that happened during the year, Margaret, and maybe you could help me name some names here, but we had the squad expanding, members of the squad, progressives.
Yeah. Jamal Bowman. Yeah, Jamal Bowman. Oh my gosh, her name is slipping my mind. You know her name.
Bush.
Yes, Cori Bush. Thank you. Yeah. They're both now in Congress. That's a big deal. But I wanted to ask you something before we talk about the squad getting bigger in terms of Alex Padilla. So the big talk is that Alex Padilla is the first Latinx person to go to the Senate from California, in a state where 40% of the population is Latinx. Oh, you and I are also from that community. Well, how do you feel about having somebody being appointed to the Senate who comes from a specific community, in this case, the Latinx community, who is also more of a corporate Democrat rather than somebody who, I guess my question is, does the fact that they're Mexican, of Mexican origin, mean something more to you than what their policy opinions would be?
Not at all. I don't care if the person is from wherever he is in the world, doesn't matter. I think what we need to understand is that we can have Latinos, Latinx, I'm pushing for those kind of politicians that can screw us left and right every single day. What good does it do for us? You could have your first female, you put them all in categories. It's always going to be a first this, a first that. But if they don't do anything in behalf of the people, doesn't matter. We can have every single senator a Latino, a Latina X. It means nothing unless they're pushing for the right ideas and the right changes and the right policies that uplifts not just the Latino community, but everyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm about. I love my Latino heritage. Um, I'm very proud. I'm from Guatemalan descent. But look, I'd rather have somebody that don't look like me being in office, knowing that he or she or he or whoever, fighting for me, not selling out, looking out for the little people. That's respect right there. That's admiration. And doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. Doesn't matter where your place of origin may be. What we need right now more than ever are leaders that stand up strong for the working class. Yes, it's nice to have a first, Latinx, representing California. Nice, but it means nothing until we start seeing that person fighting for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's people that are still holding grudges towards Alex Padilla because of the way he mishandled a lot of things, but it's not going to change anything right now. We have a first Latino senator representing California. You know what I mean? More power to him, but let's get the work.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it should matter. I think at this point it's much more important that we have somebody who understands the needs of American people and can pull through and be there and have and be part of that movement to take the money from the rich and give it to the poor. And basically, like that's really what we're talking about here. We do need a massive transfer of wealth. So we can't have somebody who is going to be there and be nice to the corporations. And it sounds like Padilla is going to be one of those people. So yeah, for me, it also doesn't really matter that his family is of Mexican origin. It's just, so what? Like in Los Angeles, there's so many corrupt people who come from Latin America, whose family came from Latin America to this country. The school boards, you look at the surnames. There's a lot of Spanish surnames, and a lot of them are corrupt people. They're just there because it looks good and they get a paycheck, and they take plenty of money from developers. They do nothing for the students, and there's a well-known family in the city of Montebello that is super corrupt and has been in politics for a long time. Also Spanish surname, Latinx community. So yeah, like we really have to get past this idea of the, diversity means that if we bring in somebody who isn't white, that they're automatically going to be, perfect and good and have strong morals, when there's really no track record for that. I mean, Kamala Harris was very happy to imprison people and support the police department, which in our state, in the state of California, has also committed extreme acts of violence against Black people and brown people. So it's, just the color of your skin does not give you a pass to, from scrutiny. But I think that go ahead.
We should not give them a pass. We should hold them accountable. And again, you're absolutely correct in your assessment of this kind of politics. Sometimes are very dangerous because some of the most corrupted people that I've known, in politics are Latinos.
Mm-hmm.
I actually a city councilman that I now ready to. I mean, some of the stuff. So I seen Black corrupt politicians, white corrupt. You got them everywhere, and the problem becomes again because the love affair with corporate America, with lobbyists, with developers, with big pharma, oil. Tell me you're going to fight for Medicare for all. Tell me that you're not going to sleep until you see every American being covered with Medicare for all. That's what we want to hear from Mr. Alex Padilla and the rest of them. Tell me that you're going to fight not for $15 an hour. We need $30 an hour. Tell me you're going to have the guts to say, I'm going to stand up against the current, against everybody, and this is what I'm going to call for. I'm going to take bold steps. Tell me that you believe that, education is a human right, and that you're going to fight until education is free, that we won't have to worry about our children being in debt for the rest of their lives because, the mass amount of money that it takes for you to get educated out of your pocket. Tell me you're going to do something different. You got my attention then. But politics is dirty. Politics, we got to look at for what it's worth. And Margot, more than ever, we need to be paying attention because they're going to say a lot of nice things that sounds like, oh my God, Mr. Biden, this is who we've been waiting for. Remember, you compare them to Donald Trump, which was one of the worst presidents we ever had. So anybody, above Donald Trump looks good. Doesn't matter who it is. It could be the worst person ever. That person will look good. That's how bad Trump was. By vice versa. Biden is just a bad person too, So he's going to come with his game and he's going to talk politics. But for us, we have to be paying attention to the local politics, local level, statewide, political appointees. We got to be paying attention to them, what they're doing, how they're doing things. So much to cover, Mija, it's important for us to be watching, though.
Yeah. Well, Carlos, I think now is a good time to talk about the squad, but I wanted to touch on some of the comments that were left, or one specific comment that it was left on our live stream from Karen. So she was talking about that Bernie was a senator who could help fight against Senate GOP majority, but that they voted for Bernie, but many Dems considered him to be too liberal and progressive. And I thought that was something that we could touch on very quickly because, it's really interesting that people think that Bernie is too liberal and too progressive when his ideas are not different from FDR, or even Kennedy, or even Nixon to a certain degree. I mean, I don't think we realize how much the politics in this country has shifted towards the right, because if you go back and you watch the Nixon-Kennedy debate, which I did a while over the pandemic when I was stuck at home by myself in Georgia, I watched one of the Nixon-Kennedy debates, and I was really surprised to hear Kennedy talk about this right to health care. And I mean, at the time they were talking more about Social Security, but it was the way Kennedy spoke. I mean, it was like listening to Bernie to a certain degree. And I thought to myself, wow, look how far to the right we've gone. That if we took Kennedy's talk from that debate and put him to the present, we would probably write him off as a socialist, too progressive. But the reality is that these ideas that Bernie put forth were actually ideas that saved the working class during the Depression and gave the baby boomer generation a period of extreme stability and wealth. That was probably the best period for at least white Americans, which was right after the Depression in the 50s and the 60s. And that's in large part thanks to these Bernie Sanders policies. So I think that's something when you're talking to your colleagues or your friends who say, oh, he's too progressive or he's too liberal, you should remind them to go back and watch some of these old debates, and so that they can realize that actually we've changed. The dialogue in our country has shifted to completely cut out the things that especially the older generations grew up with and benefited from. Carlos,
Right.
anything else you'd like to add to that?
This is pure political propaganda and scare tactics, used by strategic planners. These are the stuff that they draw on the board, that they put on the board, and they pretty much sit down and say, how are we going to take Bernie Sanders down? We cannot have some of his policies pushed forward. Because remember, these strategic planners representing all these politicians in Washington are owned. They're owned by special interests. They're owned by big money. And their job is to take down anybody that will take away from the bottom line of special interests and big money. So they hired some of the best guns. And part of that is hiring people that know how to manipulate people's minds, how to make them afraid of things. So they sit down with PR people, well-paid PR people, and come out with a plan to discredit a certain individual by using simple words that you and I come across every single day. They make you scared of that. They make you seem like socialism is a bad thing, when our system really operates on socialism. We could say ways and systems, whether it be the police department, whether it be the fire department, whether it be the same pay that they draw on, the same benefits that politicians receive. Those are come from socialism, background system kind of thing. So that's why I say that politics are dirty, but in the process, as we begin to learn all this, how Washington works and how politicians have failed us, we need to see, beyond words. We need to see beyond, a mirage that has been painted in front of us. Something that is not real, that is not there. They're really good in convincing people that socialism is bad. You heard some of these people, some of the liberals even saying, "Oh, socialism is communism." Things like this. So it's the same kind of words that they use, but I think that people are waking up, and what's helping them to wake up is hardship. When they start facing hardship for the first time in their lives, and mind you, a lot of people have never experienced being able to someone to tell them no. We are a spoiled society. So when we are told you need to, stay in your homes for X amount of time, people went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Haircut. Oh my God, I need my nails done. And
yeah.
I need to be hanging out with the homies over there, in my sporting events. People, fell apart. For those of you that struggle every single day, it didn't hit you because you already know how to struggle, how to be without. People that are entitled, people that feel that they're entitled, people that operate in that kind of system, they're hurting right now. And that's why they're falling apart. But for us, it's time for us to speak to one another. We're sharing our stories. We're strengthening our communities because of activists that are fighting out there on the streets, that are organizing their communities. Right now, I've just been talking to a new group that popped up in South Central, where they are putting together their mutual aid. That's grassroots organizing. That's us taking care of us, because the man is not going to do it for us. If we wait for them to come around, it may not happen. It may not happen at all.
Yeah.
So we have to take care of each other, and we got to look beyond all the political talk because unless you see something that is real, everything else is just garbage. Whether the media is saying it, I have not heard one article by the media criticizing any of the moves that the Biden has made so far.
Mm-mm. Yeah, it's
You know,
been glowing.
oh my God, he picked so and so. Well, so and so is a bad person, but they are not confronting them with these
Mm-mm.
elections.
Yeah.
We see progressives being named to the cabinet. Never mind Bernie Sanders. They're not going to have nothing for him.
Nope.
I don't think they will. They should have named him already. He was a top getter of votes. He was the one that was inspiring millions. Why would the Democratic Party not embrace him and start naming some progressives into the cabinet? Because they have no interest in changing the system that they helped create, that is a failed system.
Right. Yeah, and I think that brings us back to the squad, that we have to keep growing the squad, but not just at the national level. We need squads everywhere. We need progressive-minded people in office everywhere in order for us to see the change that we want to happen. Because, as Carlos said, you're right, we're not going to convince these people to change their minds. I mean, we can put pressure on them, and if they feel the pressure, like that they might lose votes or money somehow, then they'll give in. But other than that, it is going to be difficult. So it's much easier if we can work with people in Congress or in the state legislature or on our local city council who agree with us. So that's why we encourage everyone to please consider running for office. You don't have to run for the Senate or the House of Representatives. You could just run for your local office, be it on the city council or any kind of small office that is available within your community. Because even though it seems like a lot of what's happening is on the national level, there's a lot of stuff that goes on at the local level that affects us that we don't realize. So it's really important that our viewers who are watching this morning to think of themselves as potential office holders. And it doesn't cost as much money as you think, especially on the local level, to run and win. And I think you actually have a really good chance of winning on the local level. Because some of the things that we've seen, because now, like we said, Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, they made it to the House, and now that we've grown the squad. But there were also a lot of progressives who ran, and maybe they won their primary, but they lost the general, or they lost in the primary, and it was very close. And I think part of the reason why some of these people lost is because the Democratic Party is much more aware of the power that we have as progressives, or as democratic socialists, or social, whatever label you want to put on yourself. And so they're hyper aware of a challenger, especially on the House or Senate level. So they work very hard to put a lot of money into the race, into the Democrat who supports corporations or the establishment, and to defeat the progressive challenger. So I think in some ways it's very hard to win now after AOC won for the House, because they really don't want that to happen again, because they were completely blindsided by that. But if you run on the local level, the National Party is paying less attention to that, so you have a much better chance of winning. So I really recommend that our viewers really think about running for office. And the local offices are not necessarily full-time jobs either, so you can work. You can maintain whatever your life is as is now, and you can also have a say in the local politics as an office holder. But Carlos, what I'm very interested in also emphasizing is what you touched on about mutual aid, because we can't win this by just focusing on electoral politics. We also have to organize the grassroots like we're talking about.
Yeah, well, I think that in the way to get power in the way for us to take the power away from corrupt politicians, we got to be able to be on the ground. This is our strength. Our strength is in local politics. Our strength is on local organizing. Our strength is community. In community, that's where our strength is.
Love.
Exactly. But see, that's the part that they're scared of, because we can go knock on doors and we can connect with the people. You know why we connect with the people? Because we in this thing together. You talk their talk. You are one of them. You got to get up every morning worrying about how I'm going to pay my rent, where I'm going to get the money to fix my car. There's a lot of people like that. So when you're knocking on doors and you start talking the talk, people connect with you. You understand each other. You speak the same language. And I know, because when I was out there canvassing, and you know that too, Margaret, when you start talking to the people, start like personalized climate change. I'm talking about bringing it up to the personal level, how it affects their family. They all attention. They're paying attention. You know, when you knock on doors and a couple kids come out, mom, somebody's looking, or dad, somebody at the door, the kids are listening. You see them and you greet the people, you know, and right away there's a connection, because you see this is a family. And you say, oh, beautiful kids. You know, I got 4 kids myself. All of a sudden, there's a connection right there.
Yeah.
You know? And when we start winning hearts over endorsement, I don't care about anybody's endorsement, a rich person's endorsement, you know, the head of the party endorsement. I don't care about that. I don't care if the union endorses me or not. I care if the members of the union endorse me, if they think I'm a good man, because they're the ones that are going to fight for us. I don't care if the city council member endorses me. I care if the citizens of my district endorse me, if the small business person owner endorses me. That's what I care about. I don't care about big name recognition. So we got to think like that, because that's what we begin to build, not only community, but our base. And when we're starting from the ground up, watch out, because we can knock them down. You want to knock somebody down, you don't start on the top, you go for the legs. The lowest part, they'll go down. I don't care how big they are.
Yep.
You know?
That's a really good analogy.
Doing that. We got to keep working on the ground. We got to keep knocking on doors. We got to keep winning hearts. We got to keep connecting with people. You know, we got to keep, you know, inviting people. Come. We have a food bank. You know, you could volunteer here. Next thing you know, they're out there. And I like this. Everybody that I see coming to the food bank to volunteer, they have such a great experience. They keep coming back. They start making new friends. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, look at, you know, I see young people, older people. I see black, white, yellow, you name it. We all in this thing together out there, helping each other. That's strength right there. That's community. That's power. That's love.
Yep. And that reminds me of something else in our year in review that happened this year, the Black Lives Matter movement, and how significant that was this summer. And I think that's a good example of direct action and protest and trying to take back what you deserve as a human being from the state, from the government, because I mean, the government, we do need federal help, certain things, but the government has also been a purveyor of violence within our Black and Brown communities for decades, and for Black people since slavery. So we do have to take our dignity, our humanity back from them and tell them we don't, they can't take this from us. This belongs to us. And the Black Lives Matter movement really changed the conversation. And I was really surprised when I came home in October to California to see so many signs that said Black Lives Matter on houses. I don't even know where people got these signs, but I even saw them in San Marino, which in Southern California, that's a very ritzy area. So, I mean, we have the power to change the conversation through direct action, through protest. And the knocking down of these Confederate statues is a form of direct action, because people said, I'm tired of waiting for the city council to do something. I'm tired of waiting for our state legislatures to do something. I'm going to do it. So people went and they knocked down these statues, and rightfully so, because we should not have statues up for racists, for slave owners, for people who enslaved other people and fought for the right to do that. They don't deserve a statue. That statue should be, sent to the bottom of the ocean, or ejected into space, right? We never want to see this melted down and used for something else. We don't need that. And so that's a form of direct action that we have to keep doing. We have to take orders. And then also, Carlos, like here in California, where people have been taking over these Caltrans homes, and for people outside of the state, Caltrans bought up these homes because they wanted to expand the freeway, one of the freeways here. And so they bought up the homes that were on the path. But then that project fell through, and they've just been hanging on to a bunch of these homes, and they don't rent them. They've just been empty. So people have been going in, breaking into the homes and housing unhoused families, individuals. And that's another form of direct action. And as a result of that, what happened, and Carlos, you know the story, but the city, actually, Caltrans is now renting some of these homes to the people that took them over. So direct action works. We don't have to always just focus on electoral politics. But go ahead, Carlos. I know you wanted to say something.
During the Black Lives Matter movement exploding was a combination of things. One of them is the desperation by the Black community that they're being killed at the hands of police, that they were being targeted. And let me rephrase that they are being targeted, because he has not. So we saw a combination of things. We saw that tired spirit, the broken spirit. When you see somebody with a knee in someone's neck, and the person is grasping for air, it touched the heart of every human being that has convictions, that has a heart. Because we live in America, where we put money, prestige, economics, over the life of a person. But seeing those images time and time again, he finally reached the levels where people got upset. What we saw on the streets, we saw, yes, a movement being led by Black Lives Matter activists, but we saw tremendous amounts of allies coming to support the movement. I remember during a lot of these protests, we saw white people, Latinos, Asian American. We saw them all, solid behind Black Lives Matters and their demands. All of a sudden, even politicians that have rejected Black Lives Matter forever and look down at them, all of a sudden, they out there parading, they out there speaking, and they out there saying yes to Black Lives Matter. Not because, in my opinion, it is my opinion, not because they actually care about it. It's because they saw themselves in the wrong side of history, with literally millions of people out there on the streets. They were scared for their jobs, because all of a sudden they were denouncing the police. But now we starting to get back to to the routine.
Mm-hmm.
Matters no longer out there in the streets. All of a sudden, a lot of these politicians starting to reverse again. At one
Mm-hmm.
point, I'm saying, yes, defund the police. Now it's like they don't dare to say that again. And that goes to show how they play politics. And they're good at that. But for us, it's a movement of people. These are social movements that trigger something, triggers them, that causes them to explode. And in this case was the call for social justice for the Black community that have been murdered by the police, throughout the times. Racism that prevails in their communities because we have economic racism towards Black people and any other people of color.
Mm-hmm.
We are the highest numbers of people sleeping on the streets. It's Black and brown people that are mainly the ones that are sleeping on the streets. People living in extreme poverty is Black and white. Black and brown. Those are the ones that are really, if you go look at the food bank, you don't have to look too far. You can come and look at our food bank. It's people of color out there. Rarely do I see anybody, you know what I mean, that doesn't look like us on the food bank. That tells you a lot, that we have a lot still to achieve. We have a long ways to go. But he also tells us a lot that when people come together, just like they did with Black Lives Matter, they can change hearts.
Mm-hmm.
They can get people to come on your side, even if it is for a moment. But I think that people still have a heart. They still want to believe that in America, all of us should be equal. There's still people that still think like that. But when you look a little bit further than that, when you saw the No DAPO movement, the Dakota Pipeline, resistance, it was successful because, again, you had Native Americans leading the fight, and they got support by their allies, by the international community, that were sending their donations, that were sending their support, that were driving miles to come down there and camp out alongside our brothers and sisters that were, being once again, taken advantage by big money and their campgrounds desecrated. It was people that came together that made that movement really powerful. And it became an international movement over the Dakota Pipeline. So we can do it. I don't know what's going to be next. We can look at housing. We can look at state of homelessness. We can look at healthcare. We must look at climate change. Those are the things that we are going to be looking at 2021. So if you want some kind of a gauge, a meter, if you want to set up goals, if you want to know where to put your attention in, those are the issues that are going to be prevailing through 2021 and beyond. Jobs. No one is talking about the futuristic system that is in place now. The people that are making all the money right now are people doing business online. Amazon grew numbers beyond belief. We have a trillionaire now as the man with the most money in the world, Mr. Bezos. So the online thing is going to be the thing, the futuristic robots. The pandemic actually helped a lot of these corporations to do a lot of stuff that they wanted to do for a long, long time. Now they have us at their mercy. We may give the jobs back, we may not. We're bringing computers now. We don't have to pay them healthcare. We don't have to pay them no benefits. They're actually not even going to complain to us that they're tired or calling sick, because all they have to do is turn on the switch. That's the direction that we're going, and that's what I'm afraid of, because the future is here, and we need to have unions that are strong, powerful unions, but also unions that are going to look to the future and and train their people for these kind of jobs. That's, I think, that what we need to be paying attention coming next year.
Yeah. Oh, there goes my dogs. Yeah, you're right, Carlos. These are all important things that we need to keep in mind as we go into 2021. And I don't know, are my dogs too loud? They suddenly started barking. But okay, yeah. So yeah, you're right. Exactly. Climate change is with us now. It's been with us, and it's going to get progressively worse. The economy, I think that this is still just the beginning of the bad with the economy and how it's affecting the working class. I mean, let's be clear, the economy is great for the rich. It's great for the stockholders, but it's not doing anything for average Americans people who are working 9-to-5 jobs and working in these Amazon warehouses. And you're right about Amazon and the technology companies, the Silicon Valley companies, reaping billions of dollars in funds and making money off of the pandemic and off of people, and putting them in these dire positions where, like you said, you can't even say you're tired because you're easily replaced in their opinion. So yeah, these are all things that we have to fight for, absolutely, and we have to continue to fight.
I need to say this. That here in Los Angeles, for example, we can fix the housing crisis really quick by simply putting a freeze on luxury homes. Stop building them. Stop building them. That's simple. We're in a state of crisis. Stop giving permits to keep building these monstrosities that do nothing for anybody. They need to put a citywide freeze on new developments that are X amount of dollars. If you cannot build affordable housing, you don't give them a permit, because we're in a state of crisis. That's how I will fix this crisis. And all these empty places, you tax the heck out of them if they're empty. If not, they need to lower the price. But you, just like they were reaping the benefits when corrupt politicians gave them the green lights, and they were making enormous amount of money by raising rents and kicking people out of their homes. Now it's time for them to get their fair share. We need to put them on hold, and we need to tax them if they have empty properties.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just that. But do we have politicians at City Hall that are willing to take the steps? They want to play nice development.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, your point is exactly right. We have the solutions to a lot of these problems. We've had the solutions for a long time. Even with climate change, we've had the solution. We know what we need to do. It's no secret. It's not like we need to keep studying the solutions so much as developing them out. The political will is not there. And it's not even there in California, which is sort of seen as this great progressive democratic blue state. But because we have so many people who are Democrats, who are in the pockets of big money, big corporations, these developers, nothing happens. So that's why we need to continue to put pressure, and we also need people to run for these offices too. So we need both of those things going into 2021. But really, we need the people pressure, the people movement to come together, like we did with Black Lives Matter, like we did with Bernie Sanders. We need to be out there. Hopefully this pandemic is going to calm down at some point in 2021, hopefully by the time things start to warm up, and it'll be safer for us to gather together, because we really need the ability to organize and to protest and to be out in the streets and to occupy spaces. That is the only way we're going to get immediate relief. Because when we talk about this running for office and taking these seats away from these politicians who don't care. That's a long-term strategy. That doesn't happen overnight. And it's we got AOC, we got Bernie, AOC in 2018, Bernie was 2016, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, now Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush in 2020. I mean, that's a time span of 4 years, and it took 4 years just to get 5 people. That's a long-term project. And the labor movement is also a long-term project, because the labor movement was decimated in this country because of the success of putting pressure on FDR to enact these policies to help the working class. That was only possible because we had socialist and communist parties, and because we had a very strong labor movement. But that was totally decimated over a period of 30 years, let's say, into 1980. And nowadays, you only have 5-6% of workers who are members of a union. So that's also a long-term project that we have to keep in mind and work toward expanding and bringing out that strong labor movement that we used to have. But for the immediate sake, if we want things to happen now, we have to be able to get out on the streets. We have to be able to do mutual aid. We have to be able to organize with each other. And we're learning, like you said, Carlos, we know how to use the internet to organize. We know how to do it in a way where it doesn't cost us a lot of money. But we have to be honest that our biggest successes come when we're out there, when we're out on the street, when we're out there together as a people, as a group of people, walking through the streets, demanding action, putting pressure. And that is just really hard to do right now with the pandemic, keeping us away from each other.
There are many ways of doing it, Margot. We have such creative people. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of the things that I enjoy a lot about being an activist. Mm-hmm. Is the creativity of the people. Sometimes they amaze me, the stuff that they come up with. Yeah. And we're really good at it. You have fun with it. We have some of the best artists here in LA. The arts is big in LA. And some of the best activists that I know are in the arts. Mm-hmm. And you remember Alex Schaefer, the Monopoly Man. He created the Monopoly Man, and then he created Big Bernie, the big puppet. I think went all over the place. He was in New York, he was in Chicago, he was in, everywhere. Arizona, up and down the state of California. And wherever he went, he caught a lot of attention. And that was so grassroots. A big giant puppet, that looked like Bernie Sanders. And he opened a lot of people to the conversation about who was Bernie Sanders. So that was the creativity of a local artist. And just like that, we saw so many things. Right now we have Michelle Manos and the Project Mask LA. They gave away masks for people that need them, for organizations. I just learned that they donated, Project Mask LA donated something like 500 masks to children at the border. How awesome is that? How cool is that? And everything, they sewed them together. They did all that work. So we can get creative in many different ways, including in broadcasting, things like this. You can start your own show, and you can start talking. You like talking? Get on the horn. Get on the camera and start, inviting people, have conversations with the community. Get out there and film some of the stories of our unhoused. Interview them. Put it online. Some of these people that should be taking care of the unhoused. That's how you do it. Get creative. The sky is the limit.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Yep. Do whatever you can and do anything you can. That's how we're going to get to where we want to go. So just, things are hard, but don't give up. I think that's the bottom line. Stay positive as much as you can, and hope is what we have the most. Hope will keep us going. So Well, Carlos, I think we're out of time now. We've been at this for an hour and 15 minutes, so I think maybe it's time for us to wrap up and remind our audience that we'll be back at 6 p.m. So, are there any last thoughts before we sign off? Nope.
Well, one last thing I'd like to say is that as long as there is breath, there is hope. So as we're breathing, let's keep hoping, and let's make a lot of those ideas that you have in your mind a reality. I came across this young man when I went to drop off some of the food on one of the storages. And he was a young man, and we started talking. Next thing I know, he told me that he and his girlfriend like to make sandwiches and go drop it off to those people that are the Am house. So, I share a little bit of the work that I do. His eyes were wide open, when I was stories. And I told him, well, you get your friends, you know what I mean? Invite some of your friends. We could do it online or whatever. And I'll talk to them. I'll share some of these stories to them. And I'll share with them what you are doing and how you guys can help each other and make this project a bigger project. I mean, he was all like fired up. He was like excited, because I told him some of my thoughts, some of my ideas, some of my experiences. Now he's ready to go. And that's exactly what we need to do. As long as there is breath, there is hope. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Carlos. And thank you, everyone, for watching. I think I froze, so hang on. There we go. I'm back. Okay, so yes, thank you, everyone, for watching. We're at the end of our morning show. You've been watching Stand Up, Fight Back. I'm Margot Paez, and this is my co-host, Carlos Marroquin, where we talk with you every Sunday about strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. We have a special guest tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern, so please stay with us. His name is Elias Newman, and he's with If Not Now, and this is a wonderful progressive Jewish organization that has been doing a lot of work in Georgia around the Senate campaign, the Senate races there, and also they do a lot of work around the occupation of Palestine. So we'll see you there. Have a great day, everyone, and stay safe and wear a mask.